Okay, so I want to make a video talking about Logan Stanley. Most of you who are Jets fans should know about Logan Stanley. He was drafted, 18th overall in the 2016 entry level draft, I believe. Yeah, 2016 entry level draft, 18th overall. So he was a pretty good pick by the Jets. He's a pretty high pick, all things considered, and he's a defensive pick. So we don't have a lot of high end defensive prospects other than Niku. So I feel like since Niku had such a a good year in the NHL this year with the Moose, that Logan Stanley's development didn't get talked about as much because he had a pretty phenomenal season. As you guys can see now, I took the liberty to add in his stats, his professional stats and juniors, to the video, so you guys can take a look at that and refer to that constantly as I talk throughout the video. But I want to talk about his stats this season because I feel that he has a lot of room to improve, but at the same time, I feel that Logan Stanley might be a Zdeno Chara type situation. You can't give up on the guy just yet, and he might get traded, he might not, but I'd like to see Logan Stanley get a chance with the team, and that's why I decided to make this video, is because I feel he doesn't get enough love. He's got a lot of flaws like everybody, every prospect, but this is definitely a player that, as a Jets fan, you should want on your team. So let's take a look at his first year in 2014-15 with the Windsor Spitfires. In 59 games, he didn't score a goal. He put up 4 assists for a total of 4 points, with 60 penalty minutes and a -25. Okay, that's a pretty bad year, but it was his first year in the juniors, so we gotta give him a break there. Hop up to the next year, 2015-16, also with Windsor. Played 64 games, so he played more games. Scored 5 goals, put up 12 assists for a total of 17 points with 103 penalty minutes. So he takes a lot of penalty minutes. That's also because of his size. He is 6 feet, 230 pounds. That is a very, very big guy. That's without skates. So probably around 6'2" with skates, maybe. That is a big guy. That's like a Dustin Bubble type of guy. So yeah, the guy's gonna hit. Yeah, the guy's gonna get some penalty minutes, but that doesn't take away from his defensive abilities. But I'll get to it later. Just because he may be big doesn't mean he's that good of a mobile defenseman. That's one of his bigger issues, which I'll talk about later. Getting into his third season with the Windsor Spitfires again. This year, only playing 35 games, putting up a total of 4 goals and 13 assists for 17 points again. So matching his point total from the year before, with 62 penalty minutes in 35 games. Now, that's mostly because he fights a lot and is a big guy, and he hits and takes a lot of big penalties because he fights, but another situation of a lot of penalty minutes and a lot less games. Jumping in to the last season he played, his most recent professional season, with the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL, in 61 games, so his second career high, so his second on his career, I can't speak for some reason, they've been doing that all day. But anyways, so the second most games he's played in his career in a regular season with 61 games, career high in goals with 15, and a career high with assists with 27 for a total of 14 points and 111 penalty minutes. So this is the most penalty minutes he's ever had in his career, but also he was a +6 this year. That's not bad. You got to be happy with that. And then we also look at the playoffs this year. In 6 playoff games, he put up 4 goals with 12 assists. Wow, 20 penalty minutes in 6 games. I mean, not 6 games. What am I saying? He was a +6 this year. He had played 19 playoff games. So in 19 playoff games, my bad, he had 4 goals, 12 assists with 16 points, 20 penalty minutes. He was way more disciplined in the playoffs. That is why when I started looking up some research as I was bored and I was looking up Jets prospects and I saw those playoff stats, that is why I decided to make this video. To me, a guy who plays 19 playoff games, 4 goals, 12 assists as a defenseman with 16 points and 20 penalty minutes. If you look at his regular season where he had 111, or for example when he played 35 games and got 62 penalty minutes, look at the game total, 1935. That's not that far off when you think about it. It seems big, but not really in hindsight. And he has 20 penalty minutes. Why I'm deciding to make this video is because Logan Stanley is starting to show development in big ways with discipline. Defensive discipline is a very key aspect to hockey in the NHL and to any level in professional hockey. A defenseman needs to be disciplined. In the neutral zone, he cannot be sloppy, he cannot trip, he has to have a good stick. And in his own end defensively, he can't take stupid hitting calls, roughing calls, or anything of that matter, because it'll put his team to a disadvantage. Of course, we all know with giving them a power play. And the reason I kind of look at defensemen a little harder is because I play defense. I am a right-handed defenseman. I kind of just see the way that he plays. Now, he is a lefty, so he does play on the left side, which is different. But I still play defense, so I know exactly what these guys need to do to be able to be productive for their team if they're not going to contribute offensively. But that is the thing. Logan Stanley is starting to contribute offensively with his size and his ability to hit and play very well on the open ice if he can land body contact. The problem with Logan Stanley, if we're getting into pros and cons, pros, he's been scoring a lot more and he took less penalties in the playoffs. The cons, on the other hand, is that Logan Stanley is not playing good enough defense to be a top 4 defenseman like he was projected to be when he was drafted 18th overall. The reason I say that is because due to his size, his mobility is not as, good as other players and forwards and that he's going up against, that he's checking against. And that's a big aspect. As a defenseman, you need to be mobile. When you look at some of the best defensemen in the entirety of the NHL, a lot of them have really good footwork. And that is really important in general for a hockey player. But footwork as a defenseman is also very key because you need to be able to play up to your forwards. And a lot of times forwards are faster, more agile, have a lot more, puck skills. And it's a lot harder to, check a forward like that when you're without good footwork. And that is where Logan Stanley is needing to improve. And that's why I think he should play with the Moose next season. I think give Logan Stanley a chance on the Moose, play him with experienced guys in that level of hockey, as I should say, and give him that experience. He needs to work on footwork, and he's not going to be able to work on footwork to the point where he's actually NHL ready in the minors. He needs to be brought up to the AHL. He'll play in the NHL. He can get his footwork ready because he's going up against prospects and talents that almost is like on the brink of NHL ready. Have not guys that have been in the NHL before, so have what's left of maybe their footwork from their declining the career, whatever the case may be. That is where he needs to end up. If Logan Stanley can master his footwork and his mobility on the ice, he could be a top 4 defenseman for us in the future. And think about our defensive core, top 4. You've got Sami Niku, if all things pan out with Sami Niku, which I think they will off of his playing. Sami Niku, Josh Morrissey, Jacob Trouba, if both of those players resign, and Logan Stanley. Personally, I would be terrified of that. That is a hard-hitting, offensively talented, and disciplined top 4. And that is what you need in hockey. You need an offensively fast and a defensively sound defense. And that, that's exactly what it means. I talked about this in a past video that I made about Montreal. When everyone's always like defense wins championships, and they're not wrong. But offense is what wins you a game. The defense is what holds it. If you don't have good offense, you're not going to win a game because your defense can't, stop everything that comes at them because, they make mistakes. They're not perfect. It's hard to be a perfect defenseman in a game, in any game for that matter. But the Jets have that offense to score goals and the defense right now to keep goals locked down. And that is why if they lose Dustin Byfuglien due to age and, decline in playing style, Logan Stanley could theoretically be that next Dustin Byfuglien to give them that physical offensive addition to the blue line. That's why they drafted him. Dustin Byfuglien's not going to be here forever, as much as I hate to say that as someone who's grown up watching Byfuglien from the Chicago days because of living in Vancouver with the playoff runs and everything like that, but Dustin Byfuglien will not be here forever. Logan Stanley has the potential to replace Byfuglien on the blue line because of his size and his offensive capabilities. Only if he can master his footwork. That's the big if right now. It's hard to say that he can because you can't really compare a guy in the OHL developing to possibly what 3 years in the AHL could do. Because look at a guy like Josh Morrissey. A lot of people start to say he was a bust because he wasn't making the NHL, but he was starting to, develop his game more in the AHL. He gets brought up. Everyone still says he's a bust because he's working on his defensive game more than his offensive game in his rookie year. And now you get to the second year. He's got a great defensive game, and he's got a good offensive game because he was able to bring that up and try it out this year, and probably next year he'll be able to combine both of those skills together even more and become even better off of what his last 2 seasons have been. That's scary to think about that a guy has that much discipline to learn and not rush himself, and that's very key to the Jets developing staff and to the player development within himself and his limits and how he plays. Logan Stanley is in that same situation. He needs to be able to develop things one thing at a time and focus 100% of his effort onto that. Offense comes with experience. Defense takes learning, a lot of learning and experience. He needs to work on his footwork. He's a big guy. I don't expect him to be Nikolai Ehlers' speed, but he needs to be able to keep up with guys like that, at least on the back check. Back checking is really important for a defenseman, as everyone knows, and he's not being able to do that as much because he's getting outskated because of his size and his mobility. Fix the mobility issue with Logan Stanley. You've got probably a top 4 defense, maybe even a top 20 defender in the entire league. And that's going on a huge stretch, and that's very controversial to say. But as someone who is avidly always checking Jets stats and prospects and following the drafts, and I'm always into this stuff. When they drafted Logan Stanley, at first I didn't like the trade in general, giving up a second round pick to trade down to get Logan Stanley. I felt he would have been there at 19, that where the Jets were, without moving down. But I feel, or I should say moving up actually in the draft, but I feel that if Logan Stanley could actually work on the things I've just talked about, them trading that second rounder and moving down might be one of the best things Cheveldayoff's done in his drafting, history. Because if you think about things he's been able to do with the draft picks that he's been given, he is a talented man, and I think that he sees the potential in Logan Stanley if he can fix these flaws, and he's getting better. As you guys can see, by the stats right there on the screen, he is getting better. Now, this isn't in-depth stats, it's the basic stats, and it's just something to show you what type of player he is. A two-way player that hits and scores. 15 goals, 27 assists, 42 points in 61 games. I would take that from a defenseman any day. Now, yes, that's in the OHL, so it is very, very, very possible that that could be a huge, huge decline next year in numbers if he plays with the American League Hockey, and plays in the American Hockey League. But you can't be sure about anything because we don't know. You can never know with prospects in hockey. It's a luck of the draw almost. You can never 100,000% of the time you're wrong, because you never know. Who would have picked Sami Niku to come out of nowhere and put the numbers up that he did? No one could do that. Logan Stanley could be the exact same situation if he is working on his footwork and his mobility on the ice. That is the big what if right now. Now, if you guys as Jets fans, I'd love to hear you guys' opinion about Logan Stanley, because he was a first-round pick, and no one really talks about this aspect. A lot of people think this is Kevin Cheveldayoff's first real bust, if you should say, but personally I think that there are other players that have kind of, not panned out as much as I hate to say it. There are other players, I'm not going to name them in this video, but I feel that I would love to hear your guys' opinion. Now, this video will be out there on different social media platforms. Comment wherever you comment. I really appreciate it. I love to talk about you guys with this stuff. I want to also just say this real quick. I am new to this whole analyzing thing. I know a good amount about hockey. Unfortunately, I don't have the best memory, so sometimes names slip my head. I mispronounce things a lot due to a speech impediment I have, and anyways, stuff like that. So I also talk fast, so sometimes my brain just processes things faster. But anyway, enough excuses. If I ever make video on your team, or if I make a video in general and you disagree with me, or you feel that I forgot a stupid thing or made a mistake, that is fine. I'm a human. I make mistakes. I'm not an expert at this. I'm not getting being paid to do this. I do this as someone who loves hockey really a lot and follows hockey a lot, and I do this for fun. I enjoy making the videos and just talking out loud about hockey. So if you disagree with my videos, I completely respect that. If you disagree with me making videos, I respect their opinion. You don't have to like it, but at the same time, I just want to thank you guys for so much of the support. The support lately has been insane. I just started making these, and I'm averaging over 100 views, 150 views even in some case over per video. That may not seem like a lot, but for someone who just started doing these, that means a lot to me, because I really am passionate about this. So thank you guys for showing interest in it, and to all my old viewers, thanks for showing interest if you're watching as well. I know it's not the same thing that I used to post, but still, thank you anyway. Enough rambling though about that stuff. I just wanted to get that out there, and I thought, since it was on my mind, I might as well do it now. As anyways, guys, I'm the Canadian Zombie. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out, take care, and I'll see you in the next one, and go Jets go.